Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And guess who I am? Yep, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I am super excited to welcome you back to another solo episode because we're going to talk about something that has been on my heart for a while, and many of the conversations I've been speaking to with some of our current investors and people that are considering investing with us. So I thought it was appropriate to share some of my thoughts around this really, really important topic. But you know what? First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for continuing to share the episodes. You're doing your screenshots. You're tagging us across social media, LinkedIn and Instagram and all that kind of good stuff. We appreciate that. We also appreciate those of you who continue to leave your honest written reviews as well as ratings. And we would suggest to those of you who've been thinking about it for a while, go ahead, leave your honest written review as well as rating. Let us know. Let me know what you think about these solo episodes would be fantastic. And also too, if you're looking to listen to some of the previous episodes, I know we've talked about a number of the solo episodes and we make reference. If you want to find them, you can go to firstgencp.com/podcasts to find every single episode. Once again, it's firstgencp.com/podcasts. So also too, I want to recognize one of our wonderful written reviews, our honest written reviews. And this one comes from Page B Podcasting. And it says, "Great show. Billy has the best information and insights for anyone on a real estate investing journey. His guests always have the best advice to show. You don't want to miss this show." So thanks so much for that, Page B Podcasting. Really appreciate that. And yeah, definitely don't miss any of the shows. And invite your friends, invite your family. We'd love for them to also be here and take part of what's going on. Listen, want to make this a quick episode as well. Just talk to you about something that has come up a number of times. And I want to just put things into perspective, especially when you are like, here's the thing, like when I was a high paid professional, and especially when I first got started, and I'd just been doing the traditional thing, like everybody else around me, like I was following the herd, and I was investing in IRA, 401k, maxed out. And then I was investing in mutual funds and a couple of stocks, right? That was all like least common denominator. It was pretty fast, simple, no input. I never read most of it because most of the paperwork was like 70,000 pages and just sign at the line and yes, and everybody else was doing it. So I felt comfortable, right? So that was one thing. But as I started moving into the quote unquote alternative investing space, I started realizing that there was this concept that kept coming up over and over, more and more. And it's this concept of risk. And originally I kept hearing risk and risk and risk, but also what I also started thinking to myself was, well, hang on a second. I'm looking for a reward. I'm looking for an outcome. I'm looking for an objective. And so as I got clearer on what my investing thesis was and what my investing objectives were going to be, I also started asking myself, what level of risk am I willing to take? And so this whole risk reward concept, especially when you start to take on more and more of your own responsibility, I started taking on more of my responsibility. And I started thinking to myself, okay, well, how am I going to actually understand this concept? And I usually go back to what I was taught when I was really, really little, when I kept hearing, you don't get something for nothing, right? Whenever I would learn or realize that if I want to get something, I actually probably going to need to give something. And it's a very similar thing. So I want to keep this one, I'm going to try and keep this really, really light and really high level. But the idea of risk and reward, and the reason I want to talk about this is because it's something that I continue to talk about with each one of our current investors. And then, those individuals who want to find out more about what it is that we do. And we talk about risk reward. I think it's really important to talk about this because it's one of the things that's always in your mind or it's in your gut. And if you don't talk about it, you're not doing yourself or the person that's bringing you forward to the investment opportunity any good. So as I started thinking about this risk reward concept, I started thinking about what it was like when I bought my first car, right? Or when I bought my first car or kind of invested in my first car, had a hole on the passenger side, but that's a whole different story. I won't get sidetracked. Let me stay on topic. So I was looking to buy the first car, or maybe actually, you know what? No, I'm going to talk about the first moped. I was looking to buy my very first moped, and the moped that I was looking to buy because I wanted to be able to go to work. And so I was saving for buying that very first moped. And the idea was I knew that I needed to that I wanted to get to work because I wanted to be able to make more money. Because I was just always motivated by money at an early age because I didn't have it. We didn't have it, right? And so as I started wanting to get to my job to generate more money, that was the reward I was looking for, because I wanted also the freedom to be able to drive around in our neighborhood and didn't have to rely on my parents. That was another area of freedom or reward that I was looking for. I wanted to have autonomy. I wanted to be able to go where I wanted, when I wanted. I wanted to get to my job so that I could generate more money. But the thing was, and I didn't think about it at the time, but there was a lot of risk associated with that, right? Because every single time I got on my moped, there was an opportunity for me from my house to the 6 or 7 miles that it took me to get to my job, or maybe it was even more than that at this point. Every single time there was a point of me leaving the driveway, me being on the road, many accidents could have happened. A number of things could have happened to me. And so the risks that were associated with me getting to my job to generate the rewards that I was looking for, it made sense for me. But there was also this exposure. So I had to make sure that I had some type of insurance, because heaven forbid anything would have happened to me. I wanted to make sure that I had a coverage. So a couple of things, right? To really, really try to simplify this risk and reward concept in the way that I thought about it, which was I was looking for a reward, i.e. getting to my job, being able to get more money, and have the freedom being on my moped. There were also inherent risks with doing that. Like if I didn't leave, or I had to wait for all of the lights to be green to go, knowing that no one was going to run across me, then maybe I would have never left my home if I had to wait for that concept. But I got insurance and I took the courses so that I was ready for what could be coming at me while I was driving on my moped to get the reward that I wanted. And it's a very similar thing when I start to think about investing now, and especially investing, doing things that are different than the herd, right? Especially in this alternative, quote unquote, investing space. Because there are investments that I make today, and those investments that I have may have a higher perceived risk value. But also it's the request of what is the reward that I was looking for, right? And as someone who was a high paid professional, one of the things that I started realizing was I was paying a lot in income tax. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I keep more of that money? Because it's like one of the highest expenses that you ever pay. And how could I keep more of that today? Because I knew if I could keep more of that today, then I would also be able to invest in more other types of assets that would generate more income. And that income for me and my family, that gets us to the investing destination that we're looking for, which is ultimately to have time freedom and be able to employ that time the way that we want, invest it with the family members that we want, when we want, and where we want, right? And so if I take this same very simple philosophy that I had as a young guy looking for that moped, now I'm applying the same principle of what is the reward I'm looking for and what is the risk that I'm willing to take. And then I also, even though there may be a perceived high level of risk, I then need to ask the questions that are on my head, on my heart, and figure out, am I willing to get educated enough to understand not just what the risks are, but what are the risk mitigation elements that are in place to minimize the risks that may be perceived as pretty high, especially when I didn't have the understanding of what I was investing in. Once I got more understanding and I started asking the questions, I understood the risk mitigation strategies, then guess what? I started asking better questions, and the better questions that I asked gave me better answers. And so now I'm effectively utilizing the different vehicles, right, that are allowing me to get to the destination that I want. And the one vehicle that was making the most biggest impact, the one that allowed me to keep the majority of my income tax so that I could use it in other things, is the thing that I've been talking about and sharing with other investors. And because there are levels of risk that are associated with that, it's how do we help to understand or explain the levels of risk and the risk mitigation strategies so that you feel comfortable. Just in the same way that when I was a young kid, there were a lot of risks that were going from leaving my home to getting to my job. It's the same thing today. And so the exact same process. I found out more. I got educated on, taking the classes that I needed to. I got the insurance that I needed. And guess what? It made those drives to the office. There's always risk associated with everything. Like I said, I grew up knowing that you don't get something for nothing. And so that exact same philosophy I apply today in all of the different investments that I make. And so because this is something that comes up with a lot of different conversations that I have with our investors, I thought I would bring it here to share with you, especially if you are in that high paid corporate role and you're trying to figure out how you can do things differently. You want to be able to gain access to more of your capital so that you can also be at the point where you are making your 9 to 5 optional. I know that worked really, really well for me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Actually, we've written up even a little guide around that. If you want to go to firstgencp.com/going long, you can find out more about exactly what we're doing. We can get on a call. We can talk about some of the different things that I went through. Maybe that will also help you as you look forward to gaining more control of your time so you can spend the time that you want with your loved ones. So once again, go to firstgencp.com/going long. As you're reading the guide and as you're thinking about this risk reward whole concept, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.